everyone, Michael with One Sky, and I'm here with another lunar video. This one is really lit up. What a chart. It's for the new moon, August 30th, and it's going to be taking place in constellation Leo. So, a new moon is a time for planting seeds. So in the days approaching the new moon, I like to take a look at my own life, what I want to build, what I want to do, what I'm growing, what I'm trying to cut out. And then I like to look at the chart of the new moon, and I like to see where these energies aligned. Where am I supported in my endeavors? What do I want to focus on? And it really helps to lend some agency when you're doing things in alignment with the larger energies. And I don't think you have to be a wizard to understand that much. That's a pretty simple concept. So I try to keep these lunar videos available just for people to mark the new moon and the cycle of the full moon. Those energies are the kind of the pulse. They talk about the expression of a lunar cycle in the quickest snapshot you could possibly look at it in. So as we approach this new moon, let's take a look at this chart. This chart is unbelievable. First of all, I want to call everyone's attention to the fact that this is uneven sign astrology. This is astronomically accurate, true sidereal astrology, which takes into account the exact size and location of the constellations, the stars in the sky. So when I talk about this stellium in Leo, and a lot of people think that this new moon is in Virgo, well, that's a deep rabbit hole, and the way tropical astrology is aligned, that's mainstream Western astrology if you're new, is a little bit different than the way we got our ideas about the signs and the planets, which was from watching the actual skies. So this is a little bit different. That being said, that out of the way, I want to jump in because here we have all 5 personal planets: Mercury, the Moon, Sun, Mars, and Venus in Leo. Now, they're all within this second little red line I just drew of degree within this. So they're all conjoined to each other. Even Venus on the outer edge here is conjoined to Mercury on the other outer edge. Powerful alignment. These 5 planets represent the structure of the persona, the structure of the basic drives and energies, considerations, emotions, and expression of the person in a natal chart. And when you get them together and they're starting to accentuate each other, this is an influence that we're really going to feel probably in the area of our personal expression. So what is that influence? Leo. It is going to be a big Leo influence because the sun rules Leo. So the sun is at home, backed by the stars that support it most totally, and it has all its gang with it. This just means that Leo is going to be accentuated in full. Now we're going to get to some of these other alignments because there are important alignments. You can see there's a grand trine here between this stellium and Saturn in Sag and Uranus in Aries. But before we get into that, I want to focus a little bit on Leo. So, you may know this. I know that a lot of people who are watching this channel have dug deeply enough into astrology that you're pretty familiar with the signs. Leo is interesting because it's always been a set of stars associated with royalty, with leadership, with the kind of big personality and expression of self that just commands not just a room, not just a group, but I mean with the power to command a state. So Leo's always been about royalty. It's the sign of the sun, and if you think about it, the sun just sits there. The sun does not move in its own world. Everything revolves around the sun. Now the sun does move, and it seems to be in orbit with a sister star. And this is old Vedic oral tradition, and we seem to think that it's Sirius is the most likely candidate, so that the sun's a binary star with Sirius. Seems very likely. For more info on that, you can check out Walter Crutenden's Lost Star of Myth and Time. I think he's the head of the Binary Research Institute, or maybe was at the time of that publishing. So the sun and Sirius are orbiting the galactic center. They're orbiting the galactic center at a rate it takes, I think, 250 million years to go around one time. So the sun moves. I want to be really clear, but the other planets are everything in our local neighborhood of space. Everything in the planetary astrology is orbiting around the sun. And Leo is that energy that, like, you know, it's possessed of incredible willpower. It's possessed of incredible personal power. It's always been associated with politics, with the kind of movement of power, of big personal power. It's a little bit different than the other signs. I mean, every sign is unique, but Leo is like that standout sign. It really needs to channel willpower. Leos are possessed of incredible willpower, and without a channel, without a way to get those energies flowing constructively, Leo really kind of stagnates. There's a great independent streak to Leo. Leo doesn't like to be told what to do. Leo is really comfortable giving orders, giving suggestions, giving commands even. There's a creative, generous, artistic streak to Leo, and it doesn't have to be artistic creativity, but there's a creative. It can create something. It can be, even if it's building or maybe renovating. All these energies are associated with Leo. There's a quality of creative expression, that there's the drive to bring something into being that wasn't there before, and that especially is going to be playing a role in this chart because of a very close trine to Uranus. You can see the sun and moon are making about 14-minute 0 degree 14-minute trines to Uranus, which is going to bring that quality of Leo into the fore. Leo loves to feel needed, it loves to feel important, and it loves to be admired. It's very regal, and it likes to be appreciated for its regal energy. If Leo has a downfall, it's that it can really feel needed. It can really feel needed all the time. it can it can really have a hole there when it doesn't feel needed. Like, why don't they like me? There's also a little bit of unreciprocated energy with Leo, in that Leo's the boss. It tells people what to do. It doesn't like to be told what to do. There's a great sense of confidence and a great sense of direction with Leo, and this is really an energy of doing our own thing. It's not an energy of taking orders. So I'm going to talk a bit about how this may express itself societally and in the workplace and in relationships, because this is going to be a really intense kind of influence where people with strong Leo qualities are really going to have that activated in their personality and their expression. We're all going to feel it. We're all going to feel it a good bit. We're going to see it in others. So being prepared for that is going to be really, really beneficial. Talked a little about this grand trine here, but another thing that's happening, if I could just separate some of these relationships here that may look like they're affecting everything in this stellium, but what they're actually pertaining to is just Mars and Venus. So Mars and Venus are making opposition to Neptune in Aquarius, and that is T² by Jupiter right on the Scorpio Ophiuchus cusp. Now these two relationships, the opposition here and the square, are not affecting the sun and moon directly. So that's going to be something we talk about a little later, especially as it pertains to relationships in this lunar cycle. Alright, so we have all of this energy in Leo here, all the personal planets. This is really having so much to do with the expression of our personalities, of our individual selves. And the first thing I want to look at is this grand trine to Uranus and Saturn in Sag. And I'm going to include in this Saturn Sol stellium here because Saturn is kind of like a super planet with Pluto and Ketu, or the south node, right now. So this is going to be all taken into consideration. Basically, Saturn is going to act from that point of view to bring discipline and focus to these Leo expressions, to these Leo planets, to this lunar Leo-ness. And when Saturn comes into a picture, it helps us focus on work. It helps us, given that we know how to work with Saturn's energy, we can use it to direct things into growth, slow, steady growth, building into the real world. Now, Leo and Saturn really aren't known for getting along. These two energies are a little bit at odds, but Leo has energy that it needs to channel, it needs to create. And Saturn can give structure and steadiness and a constant flow to the expression of bringing things into the real world. And when you get that combined with Uranus, Uranus is going to be that ever-changing, always unique and novel energy. So it could be a good time to look at systems and take a look at them from outside, maybe a top-down view, not from within them where we're stuck within their structure, but it's going to give a good eye to being able to work within systems to bring change to them. Uranus is with a star called Hamal, and that's Alpha Aries. It sits right here. It's the head of the ram, so it's a very headstrong, it's a very aggressive influence. And Uranus has explosive, unexpected qualities. So I would expect this Uranian influence to be a little more maybe forceful, if anything. Now, interestingly, Hamal has always been said to have the energies of Mars and Saturn. And this Uranus on Hamal is making trines to Mars and Saturn. So the energies of that are going to be at play here. The energies of a headstrong nature, and this doesn't help. This doesn't help things with Leo and its big ideas about what other people should do. So we're going to have to watch that. Some other stars, interesting stars that come into the play of this chart is right about here down in Leo. We can see fixed star Regulus, and it's in Mercury's territory. This is going to bring an upstanding, again, a regal quality to how we think. Regulus is Latin for prince or little king. Other cultures called it the heart of the lion, and in Babylon it was the king star. In China it was the king star. It was called the Yellow Emperor, who was the first emperor of China 5,000 or so years ago. It has a quality of bigness, of leadership, of absolute, the top leadership, the king, the best, that sort of thing. So we may find ourselves in our mercurial expression of thought and communication being a little touched by those energies. And Saturn here in Sag is in the degree of fixed star Nunki. And Nunki I talked a little about last video, the shoulder of the archer, the drawn shoulder of the archer. So there's this sense of potential, the sense of coiled energy, the sense of contracted energy, which is what Saturn represents. So we've got some energies in flow there with Saturn, and this Saturn South Node Pluto thing is really about disrupting. With the South Node, you have a lot of chaos. With Pluto, you have a lot of transformation. With Saturn, you have the structure, the rigid fixed things, the fixtures in our life that don't change, the sense of the monolithic things in our life that are just set. Pun intended for my Egyptian-minded friends. So when we get Uranus and Saturn together, when we get them together, and we have them together in trine, so we're looking at an ability to see through the formalism of things into the deeper essence and the structures of the systems that we're using. So with Saturn, we see the ability to function within systems. Saturn is very conformist. It's functioning within systems is one of the things it does best. And with Uranus, we have insight, we have change, we have novelty. a lot of times for the better. A lot of times it's an improvement. This is the trend with Uranus. It's definitely a benefic influence. It can act really suddenly and strongly, but it tends to act to bring things about for the better. This is an influence known for being better on its own. It is better also as the boss of others. That's Saturn and Uranus when you get them together. So this is really amplifying. This leonine quality of liking to give the orders, liking to be independent. This is going to be a really strong energy that we're all going to be dealing with this lunar cycle. And as that theme unfolds, we do see again Mars and Venus representing our relationships, our libido, the things we appreciate, the things that attract us, the things we attract, sexual energy in general. You see these squares to Jupiter and these oppositions to Uranus. There may quite likely be some confusion. There may quite likely be an expression of fantasies. There may be unusually high libido. There could quite possibly be a relationship urge, and again, just that sexual energy in general is going to be could be problematic. It could cause us to do things we regret later, and these are major adverse aspects, the square and the opposition, and they signal that these energies aren't really, they're going to be active, they're going to be at play, but they're not really in alignment. They're not really in a flow. They need to be reconciled. They need to be balanced by overcoming the obstacles that are presented by this natural relationship. And that's the energies we're seeing around Venus and Mars. So just to look at a little bit of an overview, this lunar cycle is powerful. It's very powerful, but it could be challenging. We may not like the way direction is given from above in our work environment, especially under this influence. We may feel deserving of appreciation, but instead we might be expected to give appreciation. That could be one expression of these energies, but this cycle is the cycle of the boss. This cycle favors the boss. So, in society, in general, just with people at this time, you can expect to see a little more bravado, a little more bossy, a little more independence, a little more, how do you say, like pecking order, kind of, goats ramming heads to see, who's the boss here. And the best thing to do under these influences, under these stars, just kind of roll with it. Just kind of give it room to play itself out. People are learning about Leo and learning about their own leadership and their own arrogance and their own ego. Not that that's all that Leo's about. Leo can be great, but that's going to be a big theme in this lunar cycle. It may also be an expression of political grandstanding. Could be, and it's a highly charged political season here, stateside. But I think in the political arena under these influences, we're going to see excessive activity. We may see big grandstanding, excessive promises. I think that I'm almost positive when I say Trump was a Leo rising, sidereally speaking, and this is really gonna exacerbate those qualities that are of the nature we've been talking about. Bossiness, in a word, bossiness, stubbornness, independence, bossiness, that kind of steamroller effect of leadership. Basically, in the political arena, there are positive and negative influences here. There's both. We can see with Saturn conjoined to South Node and Pluto, and trine to Uranus. There's great opportunity for change in the structure. There's great opportunity to change the rules, to change the way the game is played even. So that's an interesting thing. I suspect we're going to see that more in our personal lives as we bring that in, as we align with those energies and harmonize with them. But that's one of the lighter influences for us, is in our personal life. This is really creative, really about the energy of remaking ourselves. There's going to be a lot of amped up ego energy. Our self-importance can run high this cycle. And with jovial Jupiter here in some of the darker waters of the zodiac, right on the Scorpio-Fucus cusp, right on that deep, intense cusp of doing the inner work, of turning the poison into medicine. Well, with Jupiter there, a lot of times we're not able to see that self-importance and laugh at it. You know, with Jupiter there, square up to this stellium, we may have a difficult time pulling our head out of our own pompous state, so to speak. In general, people are likely to be a bit more about themselves at this time and less about others. I encourage everyone to honor that, to just let people make a practice or a game out of kind of humoring people, letting them learn the lessons they need to know, and understanding that appreciating them, loving them, admiring them, and all of that goes a long way to letting the energies of Leo be a little satiated, a little placated. It can get what it needs and move on to the next thing. So, good tactics for this cycle, for these times. There's going to be high creative energies at play, especially because that full moon in, I think on September 14th, is in some of the early degrees of constellation Pisces, and the sun will still be in Leo, not Virgo. So the sun in Leo casting the light to that moon, full moon in Pisces, is a very, very, very creative influence. It's a very artistically creative influence. It's a time when inspiration is going to be high and we're going to be able to create. So think of that when you think of this lunar cycle. That's not in this chart, but there is that increased artistic expression of Pisces. More about inspiration, visionary qualities, how we get information that we translate into art. The translation of it into art is Leo's territory, that actual creative process, making it happen. So there's going to be a good, inspired, creative wind this cycle. I encourage you to let people do what they do, let the boss do what they may, and just, if you have frustrations, bring them home, channel them into some kind of art, channel them into some kind of building, into some kind of creative endeavor, if you're not artistic. On top of that, this is a great energy to take that Leo position as the king of our own lives and to make changes in the structure of things as we see them. To make changes in things that might involve our worldview or our religious ideology. Those kinds of changes are really going to be empowered at this time, and that kind of consideration with Mercury on Regulus is going to be really empowered at this time. What is my relationship to this thing, this big picture, this whether it's philosophically, religiously, spiritually, even how do I fit in, and how do I want to change some of my patterns, my habits, my patterns, the things in my life that are really set in that Saturn. How do I change them? That's Uranus, and we do see that grand trine empowering this whole lunar cycle. All right, my friends. It's a lot of time I've been talking. I appreciate you for watching. I thank you. I'll see you next time.